are very, very happy to welcome Janine Marshall, the General Manager of the absolutely beautiful One Aldwych Hotel, right in London's Theatreland. And Janine is joining us today, and we're going to take you on a little journey of the stories around One Aldwych, and share just some of the real highlights, because you have to really be there to make the most of it. And I was lucky enough to visit again last week, and a reminder, if I needed it, of just how beautiful it is. And we work really closely with the One Aldwych team.
Organic vibes. Yep. And then we're going to basically just demo this entire kitchen and start new. And I feel like you're going to have this beautiful home that you're going to be entertaining in and having guests over, and you really don't have
so we work very closely with Janine and her team to create some really lovely itineraries during their stay at One Aldwych, and obviously we would love to do the same with you. But first, have to say a very warm welcome, Janine. Can you? I can't see you at the moment, but I'm hoping that you can hear me.
Yes, I can. I lost you initially, Sam, but I'm back. Good afternoon, everyone.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Janine, for joining us. And I'm really excited because this is the first of what we're planning to do, which is these individual visits to hotels, to really understand what is the difference and why people should enjoy staying with you. And we've talked about, or you talk about this, the cultured independence of One Aldwych, and all of the beautiful art and so on. Can you talk to us a little bit more about this cultured independence and what it means for you and what it means for the guests staying with you?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Sam. Good afternoon again, everyone. You are probably already aware that we are a privately independent hotel by a British family in the heart of Covent Garden. And I hope or assume that most of you know that we have been there for 23 years and recently renovated. And absolutely delighted with the end result. But what cultured independence really means for our guests is what ultimately is most important. But what it does, it allows us to provide our guests with an intelligent, articulate experience, and we can really create and curate and personalize the experiences based on the knowledge that we have of our guests. We can personalize service throughout, and that is something that the hotel has been known for many years. So as an independent hotel, it was really important for us to keep that culture and build on it moving forward, even post-renovation.
Fantastic. And can you talk a little bit more about some of the artworks in the hotel? I mean, we've seen the wonderful boatmen with oars.
Yes,
and
yes, of course.
They're all over the hotel, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely. We have some fabulous stories around the art collection. The hotel was pioneering in that regard when it opened initially, and we have 300 pieces of original art that was hand-picked and selected at the time by the MD for the hotel. I would very much describe the collection as a modern collection because it's mostly formulated by abstract expressionism, and all of the artists were seeking to progress their careers and further their careers, and they relocated to Britain, and we were then able to grab and hold on to those pieces. And what we have done throughout the years is we've built on that original collection, complementing it, of course. And one of the lockdown projects that I was telling you about, Sam, earlier, is we've really taken every piece and placed it in the best possible situation that we can throughout the hotel. And you will see the little dogs on the screen over there. The hotel, when it opened, was very famous for the dog, Beano, he was called, now Spencer, but that's a whole other story. If time allows us at the end. I can't see Andrea's face, but I'm sure she's smiling. But when we closed the hotel, we added the second dog, which is called Lizzie. And she is called Lizzie because she's covered in £1 notes with the Queen. And so that's just one example of how we've elevated and continue to build on the collection. And the oarsman is very synonymous to us because he's rowing his boat independently, and that's very much what we do as a business. And we debated that position where it is now at length. He used to be sat on the floor in the middle of the bar originally. And when we renovated, I suggested to the interior designer that we placed him on the bar. And there was lots of debates about the oars knocking people's heads and how we would make him fit. But we were just absolutely adamant that that was to be his new home. And we made it happen. And it's a real centerpiece for him. So we enjoy the pieces that we have and celebrate them. Every guest bedroom has an original piece of art. Of course, there's a lot of hotels now that do have that, but we truly own that space, that we don't have prints in the hotel. Every bedroom has, if not one, several pieces. And of course, a lot of sculpture throughout the hotel as well.
Yeah, which is amazing. And I know when we were sitting in that bar, when we were there last October, in between people who were sitting around us and talking about the boatman, it was wonderful. And he is, I think it's a perfect, absolutely perfect position, and works really, really well. And also because that bar, that lovely area is also light, with the huge windows, just lends itself to it.
The original sculpturist, Andrew Wallace, he's much more mature now, shall I say, and he's popped in and had a glass of fizz, and we have a lot of requests from guests to replicate that in smaller versions, and he's always happy to oblige.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's lovely. He must love seeing it in pride of place. That's just wonderful. Now we have to talk about the wonderful wining and dining options at One Aldwych. We'll come on and talk a bit more about your amazing Charlie tea, but what we can see here is the beautiful Indigo restaurant. I think it's there's such a lovely relaxed and welcoming feel when you go in there. So can you tell me a bit more about the dining experience and the wonderful food that Dominic and his team create?
Yes, of course. Those are precisely the words I would use to describe Indigo, relaxed and sophisticated dining. What we, including myself, don't do very well and improving on is really trying to explain that to the wider world, the location and the surprise that guests have when they arrive, because Indigo is situated above the lobby bar looking down, as that picture shows. But equally, when you look to the right, you look into the theatres and the beautiful architecture of those buildings. And when you look the other way, you can see a glimpse of London life coming by. And that is just about to get even better, because the North Bank bid, or the Westminster City Council has invested £30 million in elevating that area. And the immediate pavement in front of the hotel will be completely pedestrianised, with street art and cafes. and they're referring to it as the cultural corridor. And well, it's wonderful for us because all of the traffic from all directions will literally land in front of us.
Yeah.
So what Indigo lends itself to is enjoying the buzz of the bar and the natural daylight and what it offers around it. But of course, that's not why our regular guests come back. It's really for Chef Dominic's food, as you said, which I would very much describe as British, innovative, passionately sourced locally. It is really the essence of who Dominic is. Every dish that he has on the menu, I daren't ask because I get taken off to a farm and how they were shot or not and how it was prepared. And yes, of course, it's dairy and gluten-free, but the real treasure about Indigo is that our guests do not know. It just happens to be dairy and gluten-free, and I dine with guests often, and I don't know why, Sam, it still surprises me. People say, I had no idea. And it's really the innovation that goes behind it. You still have a sauce. It's just not a traditional béarnaise sauce, but what it is that's served with it is absolutely exquisite, if not better in my view. But of course, you'll all say that I'm biased. Yes, it's British modern cuisine in a beautiful setting.
Yeah, it certainly is. And again, it's the light, that wonderful feeling, but being so close to the pavements outside and seeing London life go past as you're sitting having breakfast or afternoon tea is just lovely. Now, we do have to talk about the other rather special element of the dining experience at One Aldwych, which is your incredible Charlie and the Chocolate Factory afternoon tea. And we enjoyed this, as I was telling you, in October last year for my partner's birthday. But what was funny was watching his daughters, both of whom are in their early 20s, utterly mesmerized by this whole spectacle that appeared before them. But loving the fact that they were loving something that these little 5 and 8-year-olds at the next table were loving as much as they were. The pictures don't do it justice. It's incredible. Where did it all come from? I mean, why Charlie?
Well, the show, the West End musical, came to Drury Lane in the theatre at the time. Well, if I may go back briefly. In about, I don't know when, many moons ago, we sat down and we said, let's do afternoon tea. And the chef, Dominic, actually said, we are a modern contemporary hotel. We're not a traditional hotel. We can't possibly serve afternoon tea. And we said, well, let's try, chef. And we did. So we were one of the first serving a much more contemporary tea in a traditional, forgive me, in a stand, a silver, more modern stand. And we sold a few covers, but it wasn't something I would call successful. And then the theatre show came, directed by Sam Mendes, around the corner. And we sat down and we decided to create a tea that would appeal to children and adults alike, very much so, based on Willy Wonka on the book and the theatre production. And then we would have tea and then they would go to the show. But the intention was always to do it for a period of time, 6 months or a year, and then switch to another theme. But it's just not been possible. It has been a tremendous success. So we do 200 on a Saturday. This coming Sunday, we have 210. It is very, very successful. And we've spent many hours debating as to why. And of course, we're very proud of the offering and the setting. But if I'm really honest with you all, I think it's simply the chocolate element. And it's because it's a themed tea. I think when people hear chocolate, they immediately are drawn to the tea. But what they are always, it's got that fun element of surprise and different, that the chocolate milk and the candy floss, and the team ask the guests to guess what the flavor of the candy floss is, and they change it. And for me personally, what I like about, I'm not a big sweet person, so I do frequent afternoon teas around London because I must. It's part of my job, of course. But I tend to stick to the savouries. But what I like about our tea is that it's not your normal plate of sandwiches that you normally get. It has been very creative and innovative and in that element. And then, of course, you go on to the sweets, which I think it sells itself.
Yeah.
So we're 7 years on now, and we've not been able to change the theme. And when I was in America, and when we did talk about the renovation and what to change at the hotel and what not, Andrea was very supportive, and we spoke to various agents and so on. And I can see her nodding then. The only thing she said to me is, Janine, please do not take Charlie tea away. Here we are. We didn't, but what we did do is change the offering and elevate it, which was important. So we keep it fresh and change the menu, of course, seasonally, as you'll see with some of the berries and so on.
Yeah, it was such a treat. It was just wonderful. Thank you for that. And you've talked about the location. I mean, this is the view from Indigo and looking out onto the Lion King, and you can see all the Mamma Mia signs from the other side. It's the location is absolutely key, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what I mean, particularly since they've invested so much in Covent Garden, which has improved. So what from the guest's perspective, again, obviously, what is it that really appeals the most, do you think?
Well, before I go into that, I'm mostly concerned about the empty vases on that photograph.
Oh, sorry. No, this was, I must prefix it. This was last week.
Martin is nodding. Martin, I don't normally produce vases without flowers.
Let's go for this one, and then.
No, I'm only teasing you, Sam. It's quite all right. For as long as I've been at the hotel, we have had to work really hard in changing the American market, particularly its perception about Covent Garden and not being in Knightsbridge. And we have churned away that for many years. But now it's much easier because it's evolving and there's an understanding, and it's certainly improved. Covent Garden is, and particularly our building is one of the few buildings that is completely an island, and it has no neighbours. And it was actually built and designed in 1907 it's where the east meets the west, and the building connects all of the city and then Covent Garden. So Covent Garden offers so much. Shopping has changed, and a lot of the very big brands have joined us. And if you'd asked me 10 years ago if there was a Mulberry or Boucheray or in Covent Garden, that just wasn't typically so. So big brands have moved from a shopping perspective, but equally, you can still get lost in the nooks and the crannies of Covent Garden and really go to Pollock's as an independent toy shop that's been there forever, and small independent boutiques. That's absolutely fabulous. So the shopping scene, I would say, has transformed and changed. Food and drink, goodness, it offers everything from Balthazar to Delaunay, STK, Spring across the road. It offers absolutely everything and continues to do so. Petersham Nursery opened recently. Cora Pearl is around the corner. And the theatres, of course, has always been there. But that is really what draws people to Covent Garden, and the arts and the culture. From the Opera House, literally to Somerset House, the greenery, it's in walking distance from Buckingham Palace. It really offers you everything.
Yep, it really does. And actually just walking out and walking those streets of Covent Garden are just, it's just a wonderful thing to do, even if you've got nowhere to go. It just is lovely to go wandering. So
and Sam, if you go now, what I'm still adjusting to is obviously because of the pandemic and the change in typically in Westminster are very difficult to get any form of licensing. And you'd had to apply for many years to literally have a flower pot outside of your hotel. And when this has happened, well, almost overnight, they said everybody can dine outside, and they've relaxed all the rules and the restrictions. So the Culture Cafe in Covent Garden now, it's just a completely different. I walked down up to the Market Square last week, and some of the little cafes quite cleverly have put carpets. I never thought they'd literally put carpets on the road, and then the dining, and then the heaters, and it's beautiful. It feels like you're walking in Europe.
Yeah, yes, and people have got very creative with it, haven't they?
Absolutely,
is just wonderful. So yeah, it's certainly great to be able to make the most of it. Now, obviously, a rather important element is the sleeping and the beautiful rooms, and I just was. I was blown away by again the light, but I love all the curves and the different angles and so on. I mean, the rooms are just beautiful, and it just feels like they have all been individually designed. It's just wonderful.
Well, dare I say, you may enjoy those curves. It's an absolute nightmare in a renovation. And because of those curves and angles, quite right, every single room had to be individually designed. There's not one wardrobe or bookshelf that could be done standard. In a typical renovation, you would say X amount of rooms, that many wardrobes, they're all the same, and send them up for manufacture. And that most certainly was not this case. We love the rooms. It was designed by Robert Angel, award-winning designer. He's a Devon boy, and he was an absolute pleasure to work with from start to finish. He really understood the brief. From talking to our clients, we asked them how would they describe One Aldwych pre-renovation, and the feedback was comfortable and it felt homely. So the brief we gave was residential, of course, comfortable and convenient to the guest, most importantly. And the building is Parisian Edwardian, so he drew inspiration from the Parisian side of the building, hence the introduction of the moldings. And that, I feel, has really softened the bedrooms in terms of style. There's not one color. We have 4 color schemes, and that's so it's different. I think if you're a regular guest, sometimes you may prefer the Celadon, other time you may prefer the sherbet or the blue color. And each room individually designed. Of course, there's a thread. They all feel relaxed and sophisticated and elegant. The most feedback that I have received is not only the lightness in terms of the design, but it's funny what excites or what guests comment to me about. They get really excited about the lighting in the room. They often say to me that when you go to a hotel, it can be quite dark and the light switches don't provide sufficient lights. So unfortunately, the picture doesn't show us that, but we have LED, we built coffers in the ceilings and there's LED lighting strips. The lamps are there, of course, for ambiance, but you have the ability as a guest to really brighten up your room and or tone it down should you wish to do so. And of course, you'll see it, not that it's very attractive, but you'll see lots of sockets all round and by the bedside to provide every possible connection and adapter and transformer that you could need. So we really tried to think about the guests' needs first, and then the style and the design. And I think it's come together beautifully.
Oh, it has. It was lucky enough to stay there, and it was the most beautiful place to wake up to, and incredibly relaxing, and all matching all of the curves with the furniture and so on. I mean, you know, I take my hat off to people who can come up with these things.
And then that painting, Sam, forgive me, behind you, if you see there's a painting on that wall.
Oh, yes.
That's actually was created for us. It's an elevation of the building when the building was built as the Morning Post. I don't know if you picked that up.
Oh, wow, no, I didn't know that.
It's the elevation of the building, and the artist create a series of those throughout the hotel. They're really beautiful.
Fantastic. And it was the Morning Post, wasn't it, that Winston Churchill was the
yes, news correspondent.
Actually worked there and downstairs, which is
in the lobby bar.
in the lobby bar, exactly. Now, some pictures we haven't got are of your beautiful spa, which has also, I gather, undergone a bit of a refurbishment and is looking fabulous, even more fabulous.
Yes, well, I'm pleased you don't have that, because that was my lockdown project. When we renovated the hotel, the two areas that we did not do was the spa to the full extent and our guest library, because that had been done fairly recently and very transparent. We just didn't have the timelines. So during the last 3 lockdowns, that has been my focus. And Robert Angel, who designed the bedrooms, collaborated with me, and we have done the spa. And I'm very, very excited. The first imagery came out yesterday. It's not edited or paintbrushed yet, and I was very tempted to share that today, but I know my marketing team will not be best pleased. But the spa really has a sense of spa. It feels like an Amman spa. It's beautiful. It's much softer, and it flows very nicely from the rooms. We have a swimming pool, a chlorine-free swimming pool. Yes, we do have the pool, and it's special because it's chlorine-free and it's at 18 meters long, and it's unusual for a London hotel to have a swimming pool. Yeah. And it's one of those things. All guests ask, "Do you have a pool?" And often when they come, they don't always use it, but we have it. And what we did do in the renovation, we created a wet area. So we have a sauna, steam, a relaxation area, and then the pool. And then upstairs, the treatment area or the waiting area is really where we changed in the lockdown. Sorry, Sam, I can't remember now. I got carried away. What was the other question?
No, it was about the spa. So you've answered perfectly. And as you said, I mean, it's amazing to have a swimming pool in London. It's such a treat.
It is, and particularly because it doesn't have the chemicals.
Yeah.
Let's not forget your wine at the Christmas tree. Oh dear. Sorry, I just looked at one of the chats.
Your wine tree at Christmas.
I hope that's not last Christmas when I was singing around the piano Christmas carols for the guests. There's obviously somebody here that witnessed that.
Fantastic. I think Barbara's obviously a fan. So we had to feature, because I'm sorry, I should.
Oh yes, of course. No, apologies, I didn't know that was coming up.
No, that's my fault, because they are just so gorgeous, and the reason I've sort of focused in here is the welcome that one gets walking through the doors at One Aldwych is really special. And I'm lucky in my job. I go to a lot of hotels, but the warmth of the welcome is key, and you get a real sense of pride and passion that whether it's Alan at concierge or whoever you're talking to. And you must do something, Janine, to inspire that in them, because it shines through a mile. And as a guest, it's lovely to be on the receiving end of.
I believe that very much comes from the top. And it very much starts with the family that owns the hotel, down to myself and down to the team. And it's very much a culture we create. The team feel part of what we call the One Aldwych family. There's only, we have a bit of a tagline. There's only one Aldwych, and there's only one team. And it's a combination of selecting people that we allow to show their personality and warmth, that they do not have to follow a script or a manual, empowering them to make decisions and not punishing them for taking a decision. I had a guest a couple of weeks before we closed, and she said, I should probably not tell you this, but every time it rains and it's a bit slippery outside, Gosha, your assistant manager from the bar, walks me all the way down with an umbrella to my car, and she must leave the bar for at least 45 minutes. And I don't want to get her into trouble, but I just wanted to say to you how special that is. And that, for me, that really encapsulates the team are empowered to do that, and they won't get told off. So I think it's instilling people to be themselves, of course, being respectful and professional, people that fit within the brand, and continuously learning and development and investing in them. We are generous in how we look after them financially, but that's not the only thing. We are also generous in terms of our time and how we communicate and deal with them. And the team have always had that in them, and our long service. I think people join the family and they stay, and we have more than 60 or 70 employees with more than 6 years service. And that helps, because if your staff turnaround is very high, you have to start over each time. And when the new ones come in, they very much look at the other ones for inspiration and guidance. And I think that's what really helps our service style.
Absolutely. And the guests love that continuity as well, don't they, when they keep...
They do. They love seeing the same faces. You were just referring to Alan, our head concierge, and Dominic. People like to come and see the same person.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so important. Wonderful. Well, I think that's a great note to finish on. So thank you. Thank you for that, because it is about the people, and that's and that's absolutely number one. So a huge thank you, and we will be sharing the recording of this with you all. So thank you so much for joining us, and a huge thank you, Janine, for taking us on a little journey around One Aldwych. That was really special. Thank you.
No, thank you very much for arranging this, and thank you very much for you all attending. I'm just sorry that I can't be in person.
I know, but hopefully not too long now.
Absolutely, let us know.
And just to say that next week we will be focusing in on the developments from the government, because we are due, fingers crossed, a new announcement. We are keeping very, very close eyes on when the US will be added to the green list. Why it wasn't first time round is beyond me, but then I'm not a politician. But we are keeping a very close eye. We will give you a detailed update on where we are, the situation over here, and possible dates and so on. And probably we'll share a few new openings and things like that as well. So we would love to see you next week. Thank you for the new faces joining us, who we haven't met before, and I think Andrea invited you. So thank you, and you are very welcome back. We do this most Wednesdays, our tea and training most Wednesdays. So you are very welcome to join us each week. We go exploring England, the very, very, very best of England, so that you can share it with your clients. So please do join us. Thanks so much, and hopefully see you next week. Thanks again, Janine.